The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hi folks, today on Aging Horizons we've got a real important show for you. We're going to be talking about disaster fraud. Just in general, that's when you're getting these scam calls, maybe scam things in the mail, in your email, on a computer, just all kinds of things that start to pop up during disasters. We want you to be prepared, so stay tuned.
With as many as 1 in 10 Americans at risk for Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia, chances are someone you know and love will receive that diagnosis. When that happens, you may well feel devastated, but know that you are not alone. Help is available. You don't have to face dementia by yourself. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
It's been 27 years. I never thought I'd still be smoking, but here I am, COPD and all. I'm about to have a granddaughter. There's so much to show her, but I'm scared I won't be able to keep up like I used to. I kind of gave up on myself on quitting. But it's different now. I want to be here for her and for my daughter.
When I stopped showing up, Jim showed up at my door. He took me to the hospital in town to get me help. That's the day Jim saved my life.
Everyone has a role to play in preventing suicide. Know the signs and don't be afraid to speak up. If someone you know is in crisis or emotional distress, the only wrong thing to say is nothing at all. Call 800-273-TALK or text MT to 741-741.
Every generation produces heroes, men and women who step forward to defend our country in time of need, no matter the personal cost to themselves. And though we can never fully repay them, we can make sure they have access to low-cost, long-term care when they need it. That's what Montana's Veterans Homes are all about. If you've got a hero in need in your family, call us. We can help.
Hello folks, and welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Kimmy Everman, and today we're going to be talking about disaster fraud. Gosh, what's that about? Well, you know, when disasters strike, when pandemics strike, when anything out of the ordinary might start happening on a large scale, we often see cons or folks that come out and try to scam or lie or manipulate to take advantage of the situation. Today we have a really expert guest with us who's going to tell us all about what we should be looking for and what to expect out of disaster fraud. This is Al Ward. Hi, Al. Good to have you here.
Good to see you.
Yeah, well, and everyone, this is Al Ward. He is the president of AARP Montana, as well as a very popular guest here on Aging Horizons. Most of you have seen Al probably discuss law enforcement types of situations in the past, and this is just a kind of another offshoot for you, Al, isn't it, to talk about what you framed as disaster fraud. So tell us about this.
Well, you know, the unfortunate thing is that when a disaster hits, a lot of people are looking to help support the people that are trying to support the relief efforts for people. And so as a result, they fall for scams because people will come up and say they represent some kind of a relief organization that's collecting money to send relief to the people. And as a result, the people send money to them, and that money gets sidetracked from the actual relief that's going on.
Right.
And the first week after a major disaster, usually the cons are the ones that are collecting most of the money.
That's a shame, Al. So, as I was saying, you have lots of experience in law enforcement matters, so this is a natural fit for you. Let's sort of just start out simple. What should people be on the lookout for? What are some red flags?
The first thing that I think is important is where people get their information. One of the things that's been a real sore point for me during this whole pandemic has been the fact that because it's 24/7 news on COVID-19, and you're getting your news from a lot of different sources, people get paranoid.
Sure.
They're so fearful of it, and the fear is what the cons work on.
Right.
So it's really important to focus your efforts on getting your information from the Centers for Disease Control, from the World Health Organization, and most likely also from your local health department.
Right.
And your doctor, because they're the ones that have the most information that's current for you in your area.
Right.
And sometimes, I really have a question about 24/7 news because of the fact that it's a lot of time that you have to fill. So you have to have a lot of experts, and some of them aren't as expert as others.
Right, Al, I think you're spot on, and we have to, that's certainly one thing in this time that I've had to watch for myself is to sort of remember and not watch the news constantly. So there's one sort of helping hand we can put out and say, be sure that you get your news from a lot of different sources, but don't overdo it. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I think that people, because people are stuck at home.
Right.
And they're not in great moods all the time,
right,
by being stuck at home. But if they keep the tube on all the time and all they're listening to is the negative stuff on COVID-19, that is going to affect what their quality of life is, for one thing.
Right.
But also, they're going to get into that doomsday scenario, and the first person that calls and says that they're going to, like with COVID, people are going to call and say that they have a vaccine for them.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we know that there isn't a vaccine.
Right.
But people will grasp at that if they're really paranoid.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and I think that right away when you were talking about that, I thought of how vulnerable people would be to any kind of call, letter, email, just anything that might. We talk so many times on our show about there not being a free lunch, and if it sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true, and that we need to watch ourselves in those situations. And most definitely now, when, as you said, we're stuck at home, we're not talking to lots of folks like we might have in the past, and we can get sort of knocked off our feet with surprise, maybe.
Yeah, we actually get tunnel vision, and especially when we're fearful.
Right.
The other thing that I think is important to remember is that there are basically several different kinds of scams that you see over and over again. Obviously, the disaster one where they're going to actually, they're a nonprofit or they're a relief agency that's raising money to help with the relief effort. Number two are the imposter scams.
Al, you know what? We have 10 seconds. I'm not even going to let you start. That one sounds really good. Folks, stay with us. We have more to tell you. We're going to talk about the imposter scam when you come back.
I
think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
Montana's fighting COVID-19, and if we want to stay open, we should all listen to the experts and mask up, especially when we can't social distance.
We want our students in class and sports back this fall, but we've got work to do. One proven path to slow COVID-19 is to mask up.
We're wearing our masks,
and our players are too.
I'm wearing my mask to protect you.
Will you wear yours to protect me?
Mask up, Montana.
This is Sergeant Jones. Please respond. I was separated from my squad. Requesting backup. Anyone? Please respond. I'm all alone here.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're talking about disaster fraud today, and boy, a timely subject certainly with the COVID pandemic around us right now, and we're really interested in keeping you safe and secure, especially as we're sort of all hunkered down in our homes, maybe not having the usual social kinds of connections that we might usually have. With us today is Al Ward. Al, great to have you with us here. And Al, you're in Billings. We're Zooming you to Helena, so we're completely grateful that you were able to be with us today. So when we left our last segment, we were about to talk about imposter fraud. Why don't you talk about that a bit, Al?
Well, everybody is probably aware of IRS scams where somebody calls up and says they're from the IRS and you owe taxes and you have to pay them over the phone or whatever. That's an imposter fraud. They're taking the place of an IRS agent, mainly because that person is a person of authority that you probably would want to talk to some of the time.
Sure.
But with the coronavirus, lately, what the latest phone calls have been people who are checking on people who have been tested positive for the virus and then back checking the people that they have come in contact with over a period of time. Couple of red flags for this. Number one is that they won't tell you who the person was that you came in contact with. They cite HIPAA regulations. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not true because they're not dealing with medical records. What they're dealing with is a person that they're checking on to find out who caused them to be positive. So HIPAA doesn't play a part in that. So if they don't tell you who the person is, there's no way for you to know. So that's number one. The second part of it is once they get past that part, then the next part is that they have a kit to send to you so that you can actually test yourself. Well, there are no home kits, and that's a red flag. especially because then they're going to charge you for it.
Right.
Here in Billings, Riverstone Health isn't going to charge you to test you for the coronavirus.
Right.
They're basically trying to stop the spread.
Right.
So, I mean, when you think about it, it's not logical, but when people are in panic mode and they're, now they're saying that somebody that they came in contact with was positive, and they're fearful about getting the disease, all of a sudden, all of the red flags just kind of go away.
Sure.
And, so it's really important that people, pay attention to these things, use their gut feelings about whether or not it seems logical, for them to do that. The second thing is, I don't think any time that you get a phone call from somebody that you take it for granted that they're who they say they are. There is absolutely no way for you to know. And unfortunately, because they're spoofing phone numbers, it may show that they're calling from, like in Billings, they might be calling from Riverstone Health.
Mm-hmm. But they aren't really, yeah.
They're not. They've spoofed the phone number, they put Riverstone Health on it. In some cases, like on jury scams, it says the local sheriff's department. It's not that. They've just spoofed it. As a matter of fact, I went to a FDC training in December, and one of the speakers was talking about the fact that it costs $5 to get the equipment necessary to spoof your phone number.
And Al, will you just explain to our viewers, what does that mean to spoof the phone?
What it means is that what you're going to see on your caller ID is not a true number, and it's not the number they're calling from. They have been able to put a different number in there. As a matter of fact, sometimes people actually answer the phone when they usually don't, when they don't recognize the number, because the number they're answering is their phone number or their phone number plus one. There are all kinds of tricks that cons get you to answer the phone. Well, the unfortunate thing is, one of the things that cons are doing by making lots of phone calls is verifying which ones are live, because they don't necessarily know that. Just because they dial a phone number doesn't necessarily mean that there's somebody on the other end.
Okay.
So when somebody answers, then that tells them that it's a live phone. And even if you hang up, the unfortunate problem is then they sell your phone number. So, I mean, it just gets so complicated.
Yeah.
But the other problem is robocalls.
Oh, sure.
And one of the things, and another problem that we're seeing in conjunction with the coronavirus is phishing scams. And that's PHISHING, not FISHING.
And you know what, Al, this is perfect, because I'm going to make our audience come back to find out what phishing means. I'm not sure I do. Folks, we have got some great information from Al today to keep you safe, to keep your bank account safe. We've got more to tell you, so don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
I was diagnosed with diabetes in 1992, and I went into denial. It made me angry. I was a professional chef, and I didn't want to change my eating style. It took me a long time to get serious about managing my health. My perspective changed from resentment to one of loving my body, the container for my spirit. Getting help from my diabetes educator supported my goals of improved self-care. I want to feel good and have a great life. My diabetes educator helps me do this.
Good care is your right. In Montana, there's over 11,000 beds in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. If you or a family member needs assistance or help in obtaining information about care issues and placement options, call 1-800-332-2272. If you or a family member need information about Montana's long-term care resident rights, or if you need help solving a problem or a complaint about a nursing home or an assisted living facility, call us at 800-332-2272.
If you give or receive care, you already know that it can cause stress on caregiver and receiver alike. The good news is, if you have limited resources, help is available. The Montana Lifespan Respite Program may be able to help you pay for care while you take a break. Even better news is how easy it is to apply. You can get an application online or have one sent to you. We'll get back to you within 5 working days. Respite for caregivers. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. It's okay to get it.
If the Aging Network in Montana was a restaurant, the sign out front would say, over 50 million meals served over the last 30 years. Since adequate nutrition is critical to health and quality of life, nutrition services are an important factor in keeping older Montanans healthy, independent, and living in their community and home. To find out more about senior nutrition programs in your area, call 1-800-551-3191.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here with Al Ward today talking about disaster fraud. Now, Al, I know this has been around for a while, but just very briefly, what's phishing all about?
Well, phishing is basically, a phone call. A lot of times it can be anything anymore. As a matter of fact, there's a gang member and a drug dealer in Florida that came up with a new twist on the phishing scam, which is to hire people to break into cars and steal purses. And so when they get the purse, then they take all the information and use it to, open accounts, sometimes buy houses, all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is what they're doing is they're fishing for information.
Right.
They want to get as much information about you as possible. And a lot of people don't think that the information is that valuable. Your name and your address. I mean, they can get that out of the phone book. But the bottom line is that they take your name, your address. One of the things that I see often is that people fill out all kinds of, cards and put in boxes to win things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the unfortunate thing is that they got to be careful when they do that, because sometimes those companies actually sell the information.
Wow.
And so I wrote a book with a friend of mine about 25 years ago, and we decided to market it ourselves. And so what we did was we went to a PR firm that sold mailing lists. And I was totally appalled at the mailing lists that you can get. You can get mailing lists for Alzheimer's patients.
Oh, no.
So I mean, it just really turned me on.
Yeah.
You have to pay. But, that kind of stuff is available out there.
And you're not a criminal, Al, but criminal folks that are of that bent would love those mailing lists, wouldn't they?
Well, there's actually a scam called you forgot to send the check, which is basically targeted at Alzheimer's patients and people with dementia. If they can get an Alzheimer's patient to answer the phone, they can convince them that they told them a year or a month ago that they were going to send them a check for $50.
Oh, no.
So, and they actually they could care less.
Sure.
About who's on the other end of the phone, but you should care less, or you should care more about who's on the other end of the phone.
And, Al, let's take this opportunity, you and I talked about this earlier, to give everybody permission to hang up on these folks, because we don't owe them any polite chit-chat or anything else, do we?
No. And, the unfortunate thing is, and of course, especially at this time of the year, you're going to get a ton of calls, and you have no idea who's on the other end of the line. And sometimes they represent candidates. Sometimes they're another group that's just trying to collect information. Sometimes they're basically trying to con you, trying to get you to send the money or do something for them. And the bottom line is, why do you want to do that?
Right.
I mean, realistically, unfortunately, our technology has gotten way ahead of us. We've got all these smartphones and everything. And when the phone rings, we just naturally pick it up.
Right.
And that's not the thing to do, because you don't know who's on the other end of the line. Right. And just because they tell you something and you look at the caller ID and it has a 406 number doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Some of those 406 numbers are coming from, as a matter of fact, Paul Greenwood, who's a major actor in elder abuse prevention, talks about the 18-year-old kids that live in Jamaica that live in $1 million houses because all they do every day is call people on the phone and collect money from them.
So they're scooping up our money on false pretenses, and we need to keep on our radar screen these red flags you've talked about. Now, Al, we've just got a couple minutes left of our last segment. What is your best advice for folks to educate themselves about what we've talked about today, or educate themselves further?
Well, the next thing that I think is important, a couple of things. First of all, AARP has a fraud watch network, and it has a phone number of 1-877-908-3360, and it's www.aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. People can sign up on the Fraud Watch Network to actually get alerts. And they usually do 2 alerts a month.
Sure.
Talk about what the most current scam is, or what the scam for that time of year is.
Sure.
So it's really good information. The 877 number is a number you can call if you think you've been scammed and you don't know who to call.
Okay, that's another really good resource.
Yeah, you can call that number. The other place, obviously, is the Office of Consumer Protection
Great.
At the Attorney General's office. Federal Trade Commission is another place. And, of course, we've talked about the IRS.gov/coronavirus.
Right.
One word. Those are places to call to get information about the pandemic.
Yeah.
Also, like I said, talk to your local health department, talk to your doctor. Those are the people that really have the most current information about what's going on.
Right. Al, thank you so much. This has been such a great learning experience, and thank you for the resources. And I think it's important, you made a good point. Talk to people that you already trust. Your doctor, the health department, someone in your neighborhood, a family member. Folks, we want you to stay safe. We don't want you to get conned, so thanks.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.